Hi and welcome. In this part we're going to build the first part of the multi-vendor e-commerce website using Django. If you haven't seen the introduction already, I will add a link in the description below. There I will show you a demo of the e-commerce website we are building. I have the to-do list for today here. So let's just get started with the first one, which is creating a virtual environment. I always recommend using a virtual environment because that makes everything easier when you're going to deploy the projects later, and also making it easier to update the packages and similar just for this project. And then to create a virtual environment as a virtual env, interior shop, which is the name of the project we are building, underscore env. So I know it's the environment folder. And then I can go into it and activate it by saying cd interior shop env source bin /activate. And then you can see it was prepended here, so everything we write now will just be for this environment. So then I can just set the first task to done. The next step is to install Django and create our project. To do this, I say pip install Django. This will install the latest version of Django and also a few dependencies that Django has. Okay, great. Then I can create the project by saying Django-admin start project interior shop. Okay, and then I can go into it, so we just have it. I have a file here and also a folder with some more files. I will come back to this later because I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information right now. So then I can just set this to done. And then the next step is to create the app for the core views, like the front page, the contact page, and similar. I want all of the Django apps to be located in one folder, so I create the folder here in the root, mkdir apps. And inside there I create one more mkdir apps/core. And to create the actual Django app, I say python manage.py start app core, and then set the location to apps/core. The manage.py is kind of like the brain of the whole project, where I can do administrative tasks like creating apps, updating the database, and similar. Okay, so now we have the core view app, and I need to add it to a list of installed apps. If I just open the folder here, interior shop settings.py, which is a global configuration for the whole project. Inside this file, we have something called installed apps. There are a few default ones coming from Django, which we'll come back to a few of these later. Right now, we just want to add apps.core to this list and save. Now Django knows that these apps actually exist. Then the next step is to create a simple front page. So inside apps and inside the core folder, I want to create a new folder called templates. Django knows to look for templates folder inside the apps folder. And to separate these a little bit, I create a new folder inside here again called core. You will understand this later when I create the next step, and I will show you why. In here, create a new file called base.html, and I prepared a little bit of HTML I'm going to paste here. First, I create the doc type and add a HTML element and head element, and set the metadata to UTF-8. And then add simple title and a link to Bulma, which is the CSS framework we are using in this project. Then I create the body, add the section, so we get a little bit space over and below all of the content. And I add a container in here, so I can make it possible to center the content on the center of the screen. I will add a link to this code in the description below. If I save this now, I also need one file for the front page. So front page.html, I want front page to use this code. So I just say h1 front page and save. So we don't have to write all of this code for all of the sub templates, because all of those should just extend this one. And to make Django render all of this code, we need to go into views.py in the core folder and create something called a view. Def front page request which is information about the browser and a little bit things like that. And to show the HTML to the user, we say return render, which is a shortcut function we get from Django. This will render the HTML inside frontpage.html, core/frontpage.html, and save. And I need to do one more thing, and this is create one more file here called urls.py. This will be a collection of the pages for the core app. From Django.urls import path, and then I need to import the views we just created from .import views. I just import all of the views we create here, and then as I create a URL patterns, which is a list of all of the views. We will add more of these later, but this can be empty because the front page doesn't require any paths. Views.frontpage. This is a reference to this. And at the end here, I say name equals front page. So this is a name that I can use other places in the project to link to the front page. Great. So then the last thing we need to do is to go into interior shop urls.py. This is the main URL for the whole project. And at the bottom here, I can say path. If it's empty, I want all of them to go to the apps.core URLs file we created. Here is the include apps.core.urls. Now this will basically just append this pattern to this list. And I need to import this, so I just copy and paste up here and save. Now we should be ready to test this. To test this, Django comes with a built-in web development server. So inside the console, I can now say Python manage.py run server, and this will start the development server we can use. Okay, I had a little typo inside there, so just need to remove that S. It's URL patterns. Don't worry about this yet, we're going to come back to it very soon. So here we have the address to the website now. This development server can just be used during development. When we go into live production, we need a different web server. So if I now go to Chrome, paste this. Okay, sorry, I forgot to add one more parameter here. First, we need to pass in the request as well. Sorry about that. And now go back, refresh, you will see the front page. And if I see the page source, you'll see only this and not the content from the base.html as well. And that's what we're going to fix now. To do that, we need something called a code block. This makes it possible to extend the base template. So here I can say block content and block. And I can copy this, go to the front page.html and block. And to tell this template to use the base.html, we need to add a little bit more to the top. Extends core/base.html. This core is not the app, but it's the folder inside the templates app folder. And if I now go back to the browser, refresh, you'll see a front page. And if I now select view source, you'll see all of this. Perfect. I want one more block for the title. So up here I want to say block title and block and save. I can copy this and add it at top here. Say welcome, pipe and the space. If I now refresh, you will see up here in the title it says welcome interior shop. Perfect. Okay, so now I want to extend the base.html a little bit. I want a nav bar and footer. So I have prepared a little bit more HTML. We'll show you what. So first we add a nav bar. Give it a class of nav bar and it's dark, so it's dark gray colored. And then inside here we add a nav bar brand, which will be the logo. And then we add a link all of the links inside the menu needs to have this class navbar item. And then I just write interior shop. This is the hamburger menu for mobile devices. And below there I create a menu, but we don't add anything to it yet. And then we just close the nav. At the bottom here we add a footer element with the class footer, and then a simple title which is size 4, which is medium-sized title. And before it's just margin bottom 4, so we get a little bit space between the title and this link. And we added the link and close the footer and save. If I now go back to the browser and refresh, you'll see a nav bar at the top and a simple footer. And then the next step, we can just add a simple contact page, so we'll see a little bit more from the URLs and similar. So first we create a new template, call this contact.html. I can just copy the front page content, contact, and save. Then I can just close it because we're not going to add anything more to it. Then we need to create a new view for this. So def contact request return render request core/contact.html and save. Then we need to append it to the list of views here in the core URLs file. Path contact. So we go to contact / we will use this view. Views.contact name contact and save. Now I will show you how you use this. If you go back to base.html and up in the menu, create a new link, href, use a function called URL, and then we just pass in contact, and then Django will create this link for us. Class navbar item contact and save. And now refresh, you'll see that I got the link here at the end. And if I click it, this will say contact instead of front page. Perfect. Then I can go back to the to-do list and set this to done. Next step is to create a static file CSS, because I want to do a few small changes to the menu and to the footer. And the first thing we need to do then is to go into settings.py. We'll make a little change at the bottom here. Here we need to add something called static files dirs, so Django knows where to look for these files. Base dir / static and save. And then inside the root folder, here we create a new file, now folder called static, which is this file. And then there we create a new folder called styles and a file in there called main.css. I already created this for myself. First you create just a simple comment and then select the nav bar and give it a text transform uppercase. And all of the buttons we are going to use here, instead of them being the same color as this, I make them a little bit lighter or brighter. The footer, I add a little bit margin to the links, set the color and similar. And here I just add a little Bulma override because I don't want border radius for the buttons and input fields. So this can be saved. And then to link it inside the base.html, we need to go back to that file. And at the top of the file, we say load static. And below this style sheet, say link rel style sheet href, and then we use a function very similar to the URL function static. Then we just say styles / main.css. Now Django knows to look for the styles folder inside the static folder. If I save now, hopefully everything should work. Refresh, yes, you now see that we have uppercase here, and this became dark. Perfect. And then I can go back to the to-do list. I can set this task to done. And just before I continue and do this, I just want to add the JavaScript file, because if I now show this, okay, I forgot to add one line in the base.html. Need to add one more meta property so it knows that it's responsive. So meta name viewport content width equals device width, and initial scale is just set to 1. So if I now refresh, you'll see that this is more mobile friendly. But the menu doesn't work, so you need to add a little bit of JavaScript. So inside the static folder, we create one more folder called scripts. And inside there, a new file, main.js. Then I pasted a little bit of code from Bulma. So this adds an event listener to the document, and we listen for DOM content loaded. So when everything is ready, this code will be run. And then we get all of the navbar burgers, which is this link here. And if this exists, we loop through them. If you have more than one, and add an event listener to them, we will listen to the click. And when we click, we get this target, and then we check which element we are linking to. You can see here data target links to main navbar. And we add a list to this and toggle it. And we can save this and also include this up here. Script src. Static script / main.js and save. If I now refresh and I click this, oops, I forgot to close that one, sorry. Refresh. If I now click, you'll see that the contact, it appears here. Perfect. So then all of these are done. And we can continue to the next task, which is creating an app for the vendors. This is where we will have all the views, the database, tables, and similar. I can just stop the server, create a new folder, mkdir apps/vendor. Okay, and when we have that folder, we can create the Django app. So Python manage.py start app vendor apps/vendor, oops, and hit enter. So now that should be created. So then, before I forget it, I can just go into interior shop settings.py and append it to the list of installed apps. apps.vendor and save. Then we can create the database model. The database model describes to the database what type of fields and data we want to save. So inside models.py we can create a new model here. First we need to import one model from Django, which is a user object, from django.contrib.auth.models import user. And then we can create our vendor model class vendor, pass in something called models.model, so we can extend the class. And then we want one field for the name of the vendor. Name equals models.char field. Set the max length to 255. And we want one field to check when this was created. So created at equals models.date time field. And we want this to be populated automatically when we create one. So auto now add equals true. Then we don't have to think about that field anymore. And then we want to reference to the user who belongs to this vendor. To do that, we say created by equals models.one to one field. So one user can have one vendor. Here we just need to pass in the user model and set something called a related name to vendor. So it's easy to reference it from a user. And when we delete a user, we also want to delete this vendor. So on delete models.cascade. And we want to set the specific ordering because we want to order all of these by the name and not the default ID. To do this, we add something called a class meta, which is options for the model. Ordering equals, we create a Python list and just say name. So now it will be ordered alphabetically after the name. And we also want to add something called a string representation of this object. So def str self return self.name and save. So when we see a vendor in the admin interface and similar, we will see the name and not just the object. So now that this is done, we need to update the database. To do this, we say python manage.py make migrations. This will create some migrations file. As you can see here, we got a new folder in here, migrations. This is information about the table based on this. And then to run the script, we say python manage.py migrate. And now we have a database, and you can see here we created a vendor table. Perfect. Django also comes with something called the admin interface. And to register this model with that, we need to go into admin.py and import it here. So from .models import vendor. And then to register it, we just say admin.site.register vendor. Great. But then we can create the super admin user so we can log in and just see how what this looks like. And to do that, we say python manage.py create super user. With admin user, admin@interiorshop.com with the password. And then we can run the development server again. If I just go back to the browser, I can copy this, go to new window and say /admin. And then I can log in with the user I just created. So as you can see here, we already have the groups and users. This is default by Django. So this is the super user we just created. I go back here, I can go into vendors, but we don't have anyone there yet. So then this should be done, and I can go back here and set this to done. I can also set this to done. And then the next step now is to create a view, template and form for signing up the vendors. I can begin with a very simple view. So if I just go into vendor views.py, create it here. Def become vendor, request parameter, and return render request vendor /become vendor.html and save. Then we can also create a URLs file inside here, urls.py. And from django.urls import path, and from .import views. That will import all of the views from that file. And then we create the URL patterns list equals path become vendor / and when you go to this path, you want to use views.become vendor. And the name of this view is become vendor and save. Then we need a simple template for testing this. So in here, create a new folder, templates and vendor. So now you probably understand why we have a vendor folder in there and a core folder inside the templates here. So it's easier to separate this from each other. And in there, I create a new file, become vendor.html. And I want this to extend the base template as well. So extends core/base.html. Block title become vendor. It's a simple pipe and block. And I want one block for the content. Block content h1 plus title become vendor. Now we can just close this and block. Save. And we also need to import the URLs file we just created into this one. And here we want to say that path, all URLs beginning with vendors / should use this file, apps.vendor.urls. So if you go to vendors / become vendor, you should use the view we just created, which is this one, which will render this template. And to go to that view, you need to go into the footer here, and instead of saying that hashtag, we just say URL become vendor. And by the way, it's much better to use underscore than dash. It's just the best practice in Django. If we now save, go back to the front page, refresh, and go to the full screen again. And now click Become Vendor, you will see the title Become Vendor. Perfect. But then we need to create the form for registering a vendor. Django comes with built-in functionalities for signing up users. So if I just go into views.py again, and I can import a few new functions from django.contrib.auth import login, which is a function for logging in a user, and from django.contrib.auth.forms import user creation form, because you have a form for doing this. And we also need to import the database model we created in here. So from .models import vendor. Save. And we also need to do a few changes in here, because the first thing we want to do here is to check if the form has been submitted. And to do that, we say if request.method equals post, because if it's not submitted, this will be get. And then when it is created, we want to create an instance of the user creation form. To do that, we say form equals user creation form. And then we can just pass in request.post, so all of that data goes into this form object. And then we can, very simple, just say if form.isValid, then we know that everything of the data that the user has filled in is correct. And we can create the user by saying user equals form.save. And then we can log in the user by saying login, pass in the request and the user we just created here. And we also want to create a vendor, so we have that connected to this user. To do that, we say vendor equals vendor.objects.create. Name should just be user.username, and created by equals user, so we reference the object user. Then we can return the user back to the front page by saying return redirect front page. And this front page then refers to the view inside here, this name. But this will not work because we haven't imported redirect yet. This is just the shortcut from Django, so we can just paste it in here behind there. We also need to do a little bit more changes here, because if it's not the request, if it's not the post request, we need to show the form anyway. So else form equals user creation form. And then it can just be empty because we don't want to pass any data in there. And to make it possible to use this form in the front end, we can add it here. So now it's available in the front end in the template. Great. So now we can change the template to show this form. So below this title we say form method post action can just be a dot, so we submit it to the same page we are on. Django comes with some built-in functionalities here which we are going to use. So we need to add a new block here called CSRF token, which is cross-site request forgery, so you can't accept post requests from other pages than the one we are on. And then to show the form, we just say form SP, which is S paragraph. And below here we want the submit button, div class field, div class control, button class, button is dark and is uppercase, and sign up. So we get the button which is dark and the text should be uppercase. So if you now save this, go back to the browser and refresh, you'll see that we now get the form rendered by Django. And then I can actually create a user, code with Stein, the password, sign up. And then I was redirected to the front page. I go in here now, refresh, you'll see that I am authenticated as code with Stein and I don't have authorization to go to the admin page. So that means everything here is working. Perfect. So then I can set this to done. And then the next step is to create a simple area where the vendors can see information about themselves. So I want this to be located in this views file as well. This page will require login. So I want to introduce something called a login decorator. I will show you how this works. So at the top here, I can say from django.contrib.auth.decorators import login required. To use this, we just create a new view and first we say at login required def vendor admin request. What this does is that before we go into this view, we check if the user is logged in, and if not, he will be redirected to the login page. So it's just some very simple thing from Django to help us do this. And then we want to get the vendor from the request. So we just say vendor equals request.user.vendor. The user is added to the request when we are logged in, and we get the vendor by saying user.vendor because in the models.py file we have this related name. And since it's a one-to-one field, we get it by just saying this. And then we can render a template file, return render request vendor/vendor admin.html. And we want to pass in the vendor. Save. And we can import this into the URLs file. So at the bottom here, we say path vendor admin / views.vendor admin and the name vendor admin and save. So we can also create a simple template for this. Can copy the top here because it's going to be very similar. Just say vendor admin and vendor admin, and here we can show the name of the vendor by saying two curly braces vendor.name. And then we close this by saying end block. Now you can save this vendor admin.html. And this vendor.name is a reference to the name here. The vendor we got from the views.py here. Okay, last thing before we can test this is to go to base.html, and instead of showing a become vendor when we are authenticated, we can show a vendor admin link. So if request.user is authenticated, this is some built-in functionality from Django to check if the user is authenticated or if he is just anonymous. Else and if, so we can copy this, paste it here, and this should be replaced with vendor admin and title vendor admin. So if we are authenticated, we see this link. If not, we see the become vendor link and save. So if I now refresh, you'll see that this changed to vendor admin. I can click it, vendor admin, and my name is Code with Stein. Perfect. So then I can go back to the to-do list, set this to done. And the next step is to make it possible to log out and then log in again. We can begin with the logout function. Django also has some built-in functionality for this, so I can just go into the urls.py file in the vendor app, and at the top here I say from django.contrib.auth import views, but this will crash with this, so you need to add a different name to it by saying as auth views. And to use this, we can just append at the bottom here path log out slash, and this should use the auth views dot log out view dot as view, and use this as a function name log out. Perfect. So then we can also add a logout button inside the vendor admin. I want to change a little bit here, so I said div class box, and here I say ahref url logout class button is dangerous, it's a red button, and is uppercase logout, and then we close this box. Oops, save. If I now go here, refresh, you'll see I got a nice box and have a logout button here. If I click it, I will be logged out, but you see I got redirected to this page instead of the front page. I'll fix that soon. So we can go back here again. And then I want to create a functionality for logging in. Django also has functionality for this, so I can just say path login auth views dot login view dot as view, but here I want to specify a template name by saying template name equals vendor slash login.html, and the name should be login. Great, so then we can create this template for showing the login template. I can just copy the become vendor because it's very similar. Create a new file, paste it, and just save it as login.html, and change the title login, and the same with this title login, and the button can also be changed to login. Besides this, it should be all similar because it's get a form automatically from Django, and we just want to render it as a paragraph. But before I test this, I want to change a little bit inside the settings.py, because I want to change the default login URL. So if you try to go to a page you don't have authentication to, you want to redirect you to this page. Login URL login. This is a reference to this name. And login redirect URL. This is where you're going to be redirected when you log in, which should be vendor admin. And we can also set logout redirect URL front page and save. If I now go back here and click become vendor, I want to add a link here so I can go to the login page. So below here, below the form, create the HR h2 class subtitle. Already have an account. h2 ahref url login. Now we can refresh, and if you already have an account, you can click here to log in. And then we can try to log in with the user we created. Log in, and then I'll log it in again. Perfect. So now I can go back to the to-do list and set this to done. And then we are going to continue to make it possible to add products and categories. Only the owner of the page will be able to add categories, and the vendors will add products. So I can first begin by creating a new folder, mkdir apps/product, and python manage.py start app product and apps/product, which is the location. Then I can go to the settings.py and register a hit here, apps.product, and save. So now Django knows that this exists. Next, I want to create a model for the categories. So if I just go up here, find the product app, go into models.py. And then I create it by saying class category, pass in the models.model parameter. We want the title here, title equals models.char field, max length equals 255, and slug field, models.slug field, also set the max length here. A slug field is a field you can use in the URLs, like this for example, so it's a little bit more pretty than using an ID or something similar. Ordering equals models.integer field, default equals 0. Ordering is because we're going to list out the categories up here and we want the possibility to change the default order there. Class meta ordering equals, create a list and just pass in ordering because we want to order by this field. And we want string representation here as well. Def str self return self.title and save. Then we can update the database, make migrations. Everything here is okay. We want to create a model called category, python manage.py migrate, and then everything there is okay. Perfect. Great. The product model is a little bit more complicated. Here we want to do some customization to the images and similar. So we need to import a few libraries from Python. At the top here, we want to import this by saying from IO import bytes IO, and from peel import image. This is a library we will install very soon. And then at the bottom, and then above here we say from django.core.files import file. And we also want to import the vendor. So from apps.vendor.models import vendor. Here you see that you need to specify the whole name because we're not in the same folder. Then we can start by creating a new class, product models.model. The first thing here we want is a reference to the category. So category equals models.foreign key. This is almost the same as a one-to-one field. It's just that one category can have more than one product. So first we pass in the category object. Related name should be set to products, so we can get all the products for a category very easy. And on delete equals models.cascade. So when you delete a category, you also delete all of the products. Then I can copy this because I want the reference for the vendor, because we want to know who owns a product. So we just replace this with vendor and vendor. So now we can also get all the products belonging to a vendor very easily. And I can copy the title and slug field because we want the title and slug field for the products as well. I also want the description equals models.text field. This can be blank if the user doesn't want to fill it out. So blank equals true and null equals true. This is the correct way to make this possible. And we want the price field. So price equals models.decimal field. That's the best way for storing prices. So you should not use a float field. Max digits is 6. Decimal places is set to 2. This might change according to what type of currency you are using and similar, but I'm going to use dollars and then this is more than enough. Also want the reference to know when this product was added to the database. So date added equals models.date time field auto now add equals true. Great. And we want one field for getting the product image. Image equals models.image field. Upload to. And here we need to specify which folder we want this to be located in. That can be uploads / blank equals true, null equals true, in case the user doesn't want to have an image. And we can copy this because we want a thumbnail field, thumbnail, and that can also be uploaded here. The user should just upload the image and then we generate the thumbnail and store it here. Then we can add the class meta, because here we want to order it by the date added, so we get the newest products first. Ordering equals minus date added, so it's date added in descending order. And we can copy this, so we get the string representation. And we want the function for getting the thumbnail. So instead of just saying product.thumbnail, we use a function for getting the thumbnail. So if you don't have a thumbnail, we generate it based on this image. We will see how this works when we start implementing it. Def get thumbnail, pass in self, because you always do that in a class. If self.thumbnail, if this already exists, we can just say return self.thumbnail.url. And if it doesn't exist, we need to check if there is an image. If self.image, then we need to generate this thumbnail. Do this by saying self.thumbnail equals self.make_thumbnail self.image. And when that's done, we need to save this, self.save. And then we can just return this, because now we have a thumbnail. But if the user didn't upload an image, we just want to show a default picture by saying return https://via.placeholder.com/240x180.jpg. And now we need to create this make thumbnail function. It's not as hard as you think. Def make thumbnail, pass in self, and then image, which is the one we get there, and the default size. So size, create a tuple 300, 200. It should be maximum 300 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall. Img equals image.open image. So now we use image, the function we imported up here, to create the image object. img.convert RGB, so now everything is correct. img.thumbnail, this is a built-in function from Peel, and then we just pass in the size. Thumb.io equals bytes.io, create an instance of that. img.save thumb.io JPEG, quality can be set to 85 because the thumbnails doesn't need to have that great quality. And then we say thumbnail equals file, so we return a file up here before we save it. Thumb.io name equals image.name, return thumbnail, and save. Now the database model for the product is finished. So I will show you how this works very soon, but first we need to update the database. Python make migrations. Okay, no module named Peel. That's because we need to import this. Now install it by saying pip install pillow. Pillow is a different version of Peel, but it's much better to use. Then we can run make migrations again. Now we create a model product, so everything should be working now. Run the migrate script, and then we can run the server again. And then I can just import this to the admin area, so we have it there from .models import category and product admin.site.register register category and admin.site register product and save. Now I have it there. But before we can test this, you will see that up here we reference this uploads folder, but where is that located? We need to fix this. So in the root here, we create one more folder called media. This is where the uploads folder should be located. If I now go back to settings.py, to this bottom here, I can add a link to this by saying media url/media and media root equals base there / media / like that and save. But Django isn't very good at handling dynamic images, so we need to do a little change to the main urls.py file. So at the top here we say from django.conf import settings, so we can get the values we just added. And at the bottom here we say from django.conf.urls.static import static. And then the last thing here is to say plus static settings.media URL document root equals settings.media root and save. Okay, and then everything should be okay here. For now, I should be able to set this task to done. And then the next step is to show a list of my products in the admin area. To do this, I need to go into apps and vendor views.py. And up the top here, we need to import the product model from apps.product.models import product. And then I get all the products down here by saying products equals vendor.products.all. And then I just want to append this to the list here so we can use it in the front end. And then to show this, I can go to vendor admin. Below this box, I create one new box. The h2 class is size 3, margin bottom 4. My products. Here, say if products, if you have any. If not, you can just show a message, you don't have any products yet. Now we can close this if. And if we have products, we want to show a table. So table class, table is full width. This is some Bulma classes, if you didn't know. T-head and TR and TH, title. And we also want to have one TH for the price. And here we create one more element, T body. And here we want to loop through all of the products we got in the backend. So for product in products. And for create one TR per product, TD, product.title, and TD $, product.price, and save. Now we have a list of products, but we don't have any products yet, as you can see here. But at least I can go back here again, set this to done. Now it's time to make it possible for the vendors to add products. To do this, we want something called a form, and especially a model form from Django. So inside the vendor here, we create a new file, forms.py. And then we first import model form from Django, from django.forms import model form, and we want to import the product model from apps.product.models import product. Then we can create a simple model form. The model form generates a form based on the model we pass in. So class product form, pass in model form, class meta, because we can specify a little bit here, model equals product. This is the model we want to use, and then we need to specify which fields we want to use from this model. Fields equals category, and the image, the title, the description, and the price. The other fields, like the thumbnail, we need to fix later, and also the vendor we need to specify after, because we don't want to choose which vendor you are. Now you can just save this, copy this name, and go into views.py. And then we can import this form from .forms import product form. And we also want a function for converting the title into a slug. And Django has built-in functionality for this. From django.utils.text import slugify. And then we want one more new view for this. So at the bottom here we say @login required, because you need to be logged in to create a new product. Def add product request. And then we do the same as we did up here. We need to check if the request method is post. And if it is, we say form equals product form, and pass in request.post data. But there we also need to pass in request.files, because you submit files in this form. If form.is valid, and we can create a new product by saying product equals form.save, commit equals false. Because we haven't set the vendor yet, everything here will crash if we don't do this. So we create a new form. Now we create a new product, but we don't commit it to the database yet. Product.vendor equals request.user.vendor. So now it has the vendor, but it also needs the slug. So product.slug equals slugify. Then we pass in product.title, because we already created the product here. Then we can say product.save, and it will be saved to the database. Then we can return the user back to the vendor admin page, vendor admin. And if it's not a post request, we can just form equals product form and return render request vendor/add product.html. I need to make it possible to use the form in the front end like this. Now we can save this. Now we can import this and use it in the urls.py. So path add product views.add product, and the name is also add product, and save. Then we can create the template for doing this. And I can just copy the become vendor, because something is very similar. New file, just save it as add vendor.html. Oops, it should be add product.html. Now I can copy this, now paste it, remove this. Let's say add product, replace the title here as well, and can change the title on the button to submit. But we got the form like this, so we can just generate it as a paragraph. But we need to add enc type to the form, multi-part form data, because we're going to use images here. And then the last thing we need to do before we can test this is to add a button in the vendor admin below this title. Here is the href URL add product. Class button is dark, is uppercase, and MB6. So we have a little bit space from the button and down to the products, add product and save. Everything here seems to be okay, so I can go back and refresh, and now we have a new button here, add product, which you can test. Okay, so then I can add a product, but we don't have any categories yet. So to fix this, I just copy the URL, go to a different browser, log in with the admin user we created. Not now. Create category, sofa with small because this can be used in a URL, and add ordering to, and bed 1. Save. Go back here now, refresh. You will see that I get these categories to choose between. So I want to add a sofa. Use the image, not these ones. Interior shop, I can use this. Green shop, now green sofa. This is the green sofa and the price is $1,099. Submit. Okay, name forms is not defined because it should not be an S there. So go back here, form.isValid, sorry. If I now refresh, hopefully it's okay. Yes, we now have a green sofa, price $10.99. Perfect. So now we have the possibility to add products. I go back to the to-do list, I can set this to done. Next step now is to show the newest products on the front page. These will be listed here. So first I can go in to the views.py inside the core app, so we get the products from the database. First we need a model from apps.product.models import product. Now we want to get 8 products, newest products equals product.objects.all. So we get all from the database, but we can slice this and just get 8 of them. And then we paste it in here, so it's available in the front end as well. Then I can go back to templates and front page, just remove this title. So div class columns is multi-line and MB6, so I have a little bit space below this column. Div class column is 12, has text centered, and MT6, so we have margin top 6 and MB6. H2 class is size 3, newest products. Save. If I refresh now, I have a title here called newest products. And below here, I want to loop through the products. So for product in newest products. And for, you don't need to check if there is any products now. Div class column is 3, so it takes up 25% of the width. Product list item, because we want to specify some styles for these products. Div class box, so we get a little box around the different products. Figure class image is 4 by 3. This is the built-in class in Bulma, MB4. And img src, here we're going to use the get thumbnail function, get thumbnail. So if the product doesn't have a thumbnail, we'll just get the default picture. But as you can see here, we get the green sofa we uploaded. Perfect. H2 class subtitle. And here we want to show the title, product.title. And we want to show the price below this. H3 class price is size 4, no, it's size 6, and MB5, so we get a little space below this. $product.price. HR and a href can just be empty for now. Class button is dark is uppercase view. Now we have a title, a price, and a view. Perfect. But it's a little bit too much space here, so we need to fix this with CSS. So if I just go into main.css, and below here I can say product list item dot product list item dot box dot subtitle margin bottom 0, and I want to change the color of the price. So I'll copy these two. Dot price color 888. So that looks a little bit better. Perfect. Now I can set this as well to done. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to my Patreons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description below. And the next step now is to create a view so we can see the full version when we click this view button. To do this, I go into views.py in the product app. And first, I want to import a random function from Python, import random, because we want to get some random products from the database to show related products. I also want to import one more function here called getObject or 404. So if the product doesn't exist, if you write the wrong URL, we'll just get the 404 error page. And we need a category and product model. So from .models import category and product. Then we can create the view for this. Def product was in the request parameter, the category slug, and the product slug. Because the URL will be slash, then the name of the category, and then the name of the product. Product equals get object 404. Here we just pass in the product model, and we specify the category slug should be underscore slug. This will reference the slug field inside the category the product is connected to. Category slug here is a reference to this one. And slug is the slug field for the product slug. And then we get the similar products or related product by saying similar products equals list. We need to create a list. Product.category.products, but we want to exclude the product we are on. So exclude ID equals product.id. Now we get a list of all the products in the same category we are visiting. And if the length of those products are longer than 4, we want to randomize so we only get 4 of them. If len, the length similar products is greater or equal than 4, and we say similar products equals random.sample similar products 4. So now we get 4 from this list. And then we can just say return render request product slash product.html. And then we need to pass in this product to the front end and also this variable. Okay, so now everything here should be okay, and we can create the template for showing a product. So first we create a new folder, templates, and inside there, a new folder, product, and a new file, product.html, which is the one we are referencing here. So I want this to extend the base template as well. So I can copy a little bit of the front page, just these 3 lines. And instead of saying front now welcome, we say product.title, so that's showing up in the browser. And if the product has an image, we want to show it here, because we don't want to show the placeholder image here. if product.image, then we say figure class image is 4x3 and MB6, so we get a little bit space below. In src product.image.url, so here we see that we use the URL after .image, and if, and then h1 class title product.title, and we can show the price at the end here, product.price. Below there we want to show a tag to show who the vendor is, so p class mb6 span class tag is dark, it's a dark tag, product.vendor.name. Later we're going to make it possible to click on this so you can see the detail page for a vendor. The product.description, and below here, if similar products, then we want to list them. First add an HR, div class columns is multi-line, and div class column is 12, so we can add a title here, h2 class subtitle, similar products, and then we can loop through them for product in similar products. But instead of doing the same as we did on the front page, I want to do a little cool thing here. Because I want to create a template we can reuse, we just say include product / parts / list item.html. Now we can close the end for, and if, and also the end block, and save. So now we can create this file. In this folder we create one more, parts, and in there list item.html. And the code for that can be get in the front page. So here I can copy all of these lines, just remove them and paste them here and save. And the same thing can be done here. So you can just copy this, go to the front page and paste this there and save. And then when I refresh the front page, everything looks okay, and just as it did before. Perfect. And then I can create one more URLs file inside the product, urls.py, so we can view the detail from Django.urls import path, and from .import views, and then create a URL patterns path. Here should be this one, which is slug, category slug /slug product slug. These are dynamic fields, and here you expect slug. The category slug and the product slug is references to these two parameters here. And when you go to this address, we want to use the views.product, and the name is just product, and save. And then if you go back to the main urls.py inside interior shop, we can add this to the bottom here, path. This is empty, include apps.product.urls, and save. So everything still looks okay. If I now just go into list item, change this to URL product, and then we can specify the category and the product slug by saying product.category.slug, and we can also say product.slug and save. If we now refresh, you should be able to click this, and then we see the full version of the product. Perfect. So now I can go back and set this to done. And then the next task is to make it possible to show a category. So the view for this will be very simple. We just go below here and say def category request. Here we just want the category slug. And then we get the category from the database by saying category equals get object or 404, pass in category, and the slug should be category slug. So now we get the category based on the slug we get in the URL. And then we can just return a render category.html and save. Oh, sorry, we need to pass in category here as well. Category and save. So now we need a template for this. So to do that, I can just copy the front page and go to product, create a new file called category.html, paste. Instead of saying welcome, I can say category.title. And the same thing can go down here. And instead of saying newest product, we say category.products.all and save. So now we will get a list of all the products belonging to this category. But how can I go to a category? That's by adding them up here in the menu. But first, I just want to import this to the URLs. Path, slug, category slug. And if you just have the category slug, we can go to, need to add that, views.category, and the name is category. And to show all of the categories up here, we need to create something called a context processor. So inside here, we create one more file, context processors.py. This is almost like global functionality. And here we want to import the category model from apps.product.models import category. Def menu categories. Just pass in the request. And then we get all of the categories by saying categories equals category.objects.all. Then we return this, so we can use them in the front end. Categories and save. Next step is to register this with Django so it knows that this exists. And if I scroll down to templates, you will see that there are already 4 built-in context processors. But we need to add ours here. So here we can say apps.product.context processors.menu categories and save. And then if I just go to the base.html, we can list them out there. So before this contact, here we can say for category in menu categories, ahref URL category, and here we need the category.slug, close it, plus navbar item, and we can show the category.title. And then we just need to close the end for loop and save. So if I now refresh, you will see bed and sofa. If I click bed, we'll just see bed. But if I click sofa, you will see this sofa. Perfect. So now this task was also done. So I can say done here and save. Also go to the vendor admin and do a little change there, because instead of just showing this title, we can show a link to the product. saying ahref URL product, and then we say product.category.slug and product.slug. Save, and if I now scroll down, go to the vendor admin, I can click the green sofa and be sent here. Perfect. And then the last step of this part number 1 is to create a very simple search. So inside the views.py in the product app, we need to import something called Q from the database model functionality from Django. From django.db.models import Q. Then we can create the view by saying def search, and then pass in the request parameter. Query, we want to get this from the URL request.get query, and default to empty. Products equals product.objects.filter, so we use a filter to get this from the database, and then we use the Q function, so we can either check if the title contains the query or if the description contains the query. Title I contains equals query, or Q description I contains, so it's insensitive, check in if the query is inside there. Contains equals query. And then we just return and show a template. Search.html, and I want to pass in the products and the query, and save. So now we just need to create the template. So I can copy a little bit here again. I can actually copy all of the category. Just replace this search and search and h3 search term, where we can show what the user searched for, query, and instead of category.products.all, we just say for product in products search.html, and save. And then I want to add this to the base.html, so we have a place where it can perform the search. So before the navbar end, we say div class navbar start, and in here we create a new form. So form method should just be get. We don't want to post this. Action is URL search, like that. And in here is a div class field has add-ons, so we get a little pretty form. Div class control input type text class input, it gets styling placeholder, can be search, and name is query, so we can get it in the backend. Can copy the div class control element, and button class button is dark is upper case search. And that's everything we need there. And the last step is to go into views.py here and import, in the URLs. And here is a path search, views.search, and name is also search, and save. If I now refresh, go to the top, you'll see this. But I forgot to add one class to the base.html. Because around this one we need div class navbar item, so we get some space above and everything looks as it should. Div, save, refresh, and now it looks good. So if I now search sofa, you will get all products containing the word sofa. Perfect. And that was it for this part. I hope you liked it and that it wasn't too hard to follow along. If you want notification when the next part is coming out, you need to subscribe to my channel and also remember to click the bell. By liking this video, you will help my channel to grow and I can add more content like this. In the next part, I will make it possible to add products to the cart and I will also implement all of the Stripe payment and similar. We will notify the vendor and everything that has to do with that. So, see you in the next video.